Hello, and you're all very welcome to your monthly fix of what's happening on the social networks and what has changed in the last 30 days. As always, I'm joined by Andy Lambert from Content Cal, who does all of the hard work, and I just get to ask the questions and press the live button. So hello to those who are watching cross channel. I know we're going live across Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. So as always, if you've got some questions, make sure that you put them in chat and I'll put them to Andy at the end. So Andy, over to you. I mean, the last couple of months have been massive in terms of updates and social networks really kind of, I think, watching what each other is doing. Is this month as busy?
It is very much so. Very much so. So no respite in the world of social media.
Well, here, listen, I'll put myself on mute. You can share the slides and I'm going to take some notes. So over to you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Right then. So let's dive into it. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And as usual, if you tuned into these before, you will know very well that whilst this is a rundown of all of the things that are changing, what we don't want you to do is go away from this and think, you know what, I suddenly need to do all of these things. I need to change my strategies, etc. Hopefully this will give you a whole load of inspiration. However, one thing I will need to do is just change my system preferences because Apple have done an update very helpfully, which means that I can't share my browser.
No problem. You go and fix your settings and your preferences. That's really annoying, isn't it, when you realize when you're on a live show that this needs to be done? But that's okay.
Indeed.
We can keep talking through it.
You keep on talking. I need to restart Chrome.
Okay, you go and restart Chrome. So guys, in the last 30 days, there's been massive updates, but I'd be keen to hear if there's any new things that you have been trying. A couple of things that we're working on here and that I'm actually testing with government and public sector pros are LinkedIn newsletters and Twitter spaces. When Andy comes on every month, as he says, it can be overwhelming and there's a lot of creator and commerce updates, but that's not necessarily where we want to go as marketers working in government and public sector. Where we want to go is we want to find the tactics that suit our audience right now. So that might be, as I said, leaning into LinkedIn newsletters where you are building authority content. It could be amplifying campaigns or disrupting misinformation with a Twitter space. And also it could be figuring out what tactics within Facebook and Instagram, those meta accounts, that are actually potentially going to work for you. We know that we now have Reels on Facebook since the last time that we spoke a month ago. So you can create Reels on Facebook. You can also create Reels on Instagram and cross-post. Also within Facebook, and I've actually done it in the last 30 days, I have added my podcast to my Facebook page, and I was having this conversation with radio professionals last week, and we were discussing the merits or otherwise of putting your podcast on Facebook. From their point of view, they're media, news and sport organizations, so very much they have a large audience. Will they split their audience from radio if they go to Facebook? But for somebody like me or somebody like you that has a podcast, having your podcast on Facebook with that, over 2 billion audience could be pretty remarkable. And I see Andy is back with us. Did you get your settings sorted? Let's check.
Sadly not.
Oh no!
Some more stuff needs to be done.
Do you want to send them to me? Do you want to send them to me?
I'll do that. Give us a sec.
Okay, so I'll keep chatting and you send them to me and I'll get them up, because the work that Andy does on all of these presentations, I do get him to work, but I wouldn't get him to memorize all of the things that's on your slides. That would be completely impossible. And actually, just thinking about last month and going back, we had that major Digital Trends 2022 report. And that showed us how, we've double-digit growth in social media in the past year. Maybe it's going to flatline. We saw that Facebook had their first drop in audience numbers in 18 years. And we've also seen Instagram continuing to grow at pace, so not slowing down in any way. Okay, let's see. So you see, me and Andy we're not kind of winging it today, but if you've just tuned in and you're wondering why Andy isn't like in full presentation mode, he's having some difficulties with his Apple settings, and he can't share his screen, but I'm going to try and fix it. And Andy, do you know what? I don't think there was any attachment there. Or did you paste in the link?
It was an attachment.
I'm not seeing it. That's okay. This is live streaming, and when you gotta kind of just make sure that you try and keep the audience engaged or muddle through. That's okay. Yeah, try sending that again. So we are here for the social media news show. We're currently just having minor technical difficulties, but that's all right. Who hasn't had technical difficulties? Okay, yeah, Grania says she loves Andy's presentation. They're a great source of info to look back on. Stay with us, Grania. It's coming up. We're building it up. We're usually so organized. So hang around with us. There we go. There she is. So we're just trying to sort out our technical difficulties on the social media news show that we haven't brought to you as of yet. Laura says the joys, yeah, indeed, Laura, the joys of live streaming. And these are the days where you go, I hope there's not a whole lot of people watching. I know we'll have the replay, but we could do some post-production on the old editing as well. Let's see, we'll give it another go, and if it doesn't work out today, we'll come back another day. But in the meantime, if you have any particular social media observations or social media questions, put them in chat, and we'll see if we can't just get them answered or indeed have a discussion around it. Andy, is this going to be third time lucky?
I'm hoping so.
Okay, well, here we go now. I have the slides.
And guess what? Just as the time that you've received the slides, it's now working.
Oh, well, off you go then. So, here we go. Andy, for the third time, it's over to you.
Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Massive apologies, everyone. Such is the joy of doing this live. Anyway, and also, this is an advert for why you shouldn't buy a Mac, because those system preferences are a flipping nightmare. Anyway, as per usual, we're going to go through three things. So we're going to start with the trends, some data that we've seen, some engagement benchmarks, some things that will potentially influence our strategy in terms of what particular content formats are growing and how social media networks are being used. And then we're going to go into these specific updates. So the key things that you need to know that will potentially impact your organizations moving forward. So consider this over the next kind of 30 minutes or so to be your whistle-stop tour of the whole month, everything that happened over the course of March in terms of social media updates. So firstly, excuse a very bright slide. This is some research across 200,000 social media users. This is about how brand discovery happens. And this is something I always keep an eye on, because the way that social media is influencing purchasing decisions, the way we choose the products and the services we use, the way we just get influenced in our day-to-day lives, social media is having an increasingly meaningful impact on that. So in the way that people are discovering brands, products, services, etc., 64% of internet users now say social media is their leading source of brand discovery. And how that breaks down is as follows. So ads still the number one when it comes to social media effectiveness for raising the profile of a certain initiative. And then comes recommendations, comments from social media. And as you can see here as well, like posts or reviews from expert bloggers, etc., endorsements from celebrities. So what I'm reading from that really is that whilst ads in general are still the thing that garners most attention, or attention rather, what we're seeing underneath that is the increasing influence of those individuals, not just influencers, and not just talking about those like Kylie Jenner and such, the kind of celebrity influencers. We're talking about those creators, the things that are happening also in communities, the word of mouth recommendation. All of that is having such a meaningful effect on brand discovery and having such significant contributions to how influence is happening on social. So I find that absolutely fascinating. And really the takeaways from this is like community should be at the heart of an organization, because essentially that is where trust and referrals and recommendations is built. And also through working with and collaborating with other individuals, be it creators, be it kind of micro influencers, etc., to help garner the support of their trusted networks. And you can really see how that is impacting brand discovery at a macro level. And then if we look at social media usage, because the same 200,000 people were polled on this, and what I found particularly interesting, well, I just wanted to call out this statistic from Global Web Index, actually, was that you'll notice that work-related networking and research as the primary use of social has increased by 13% year over year. So whilst it's still not the primary source of use, it's the one that's growing the most. So increasingly in our business lives, looking to social media to research brands, products, services, etc., which really just goes to further demonstrate the influential power that social media is having on brand discovery, and the way that our usage of the platform has evolved away from keeping up with friends and family. Well, not necessarily away from, but how it's kind of evolving to encompass not just networking with friends and family, but going broader and beyond that with more work-related networking and research. And that's further supported by this data as well. So this is also from Global Web Index. And I just wanted to highlight this piece. The bit that I've kind of highlighted in each of those, in those blue boxes, is about how people are finding products and brands on each of those different networks and how it's ranked as a priority. So this helps us understand potentially the kind of platforms that we should be on if we're looking to raise interest in our brands, because ultimately we want to be on the platforms where users are typically going to those networks to ultimately discover new things about products, services, brands, etc. So clearly LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter ranks quite highly for this. I've highlighted TikTok in orange because that really highlights one of the biggest challenge that's facing organizations and brands in general, is ultimately the fact that users are going there exclusively for funny, entertaining content. And that creates quite a big hurdle for brands and organizations to represent themselves on that platform and to have something to say that fits with the native TikTok experience. So without doubt, TikTok has huge opportunity, huge potential, and organic growth will be possible on TikTok for the next 12 to 18 months. But of course, there's a big barrier to that's stopping us from unlocking that growth, which is typically that barrier of creativity, which we'll talk more about later on anyway. But ultimately, other platforms increasingly becoming more focused around brand discovery, as you know, we just showed in earlier research, more and more users' behaviors orientating towards more kind of work-related initiatives on social. And Pinterest is the interesting outlier here, but that's always been the case for Pinterest, where the primary usage has always been about brand discovery. So actually sets itself very clearly apart from the other social networks. So that's the kind of broader usage demographics and the shifts that we're seeing. So let's dive into some usage data. I touched on TikTok already. I touched on the opportunity, etc. And really, this is the thing that represents what's happening on TikTok and why so many people are talking about it. Because if we look at the comparative engagement rate of TikTok of 5.96%, just as a reminder, engagement rate is the ratio of how many people interact with your content, like comment, share, etc., versus how many people see your content. So engagement rate is a really good ratio and a measure to look at to judge content quality. So TikTok performed extraordinarily highly, especially when you contrast that with Instagram. So that Instagram engagement rate across all industries here is 0.83%. So that is a significant delta between TikTok and the other network that has the highest comparative engagement rate. If you look at Facebook, for example, the engagement rate is about 0.1%. So you get to see the difference in impact that these platforms have. So not saying everyone needs to flock to TikTok, but this data does make it quite compelling. Talking of TikTok, There's some interesting shifts when it comes to the younger generation. So Generation Z, as it's called, which typically has been the safe haven of YouTube, and YouTube has owned that generation to this point. And it still is very much a kind of stronghold of YouTube. But as we've spoken about in previous sessions pertaining to YouTube, is that where YouTube's particularly interesting is that it has a really balanced demographical split across all age networks. Hence, I believe YouTube should be a key part of most content strategies for sure. But the thing that we want to call out here is that what Gen Z do is really painting the direction of where social media is going. So it's always important to note this, even if we're not directly targeting Gen Z with our content. And what we're seeing here is that as a percentage of users, TikTok are continuing to take share of that audience away from YouTube. And that's very interesting because that then helps us think about the direction of TikTok and its future growth projections, which currently are all looking rather rosy, must be said. Something else I want to call out here is some interesting insights that came along from Instagram stories, some insights that were shared by HubSpot. So this data I thought was quite interesting, and I'll go on to some examples in a second. Sorry for the busy slide. But firstly, which type of Instagram story are you most likely to tap all the way through to the end? So really interesting bit of research that helps us understand, what kind of Instagram stories should we do? Short narrative stories with photos, videos, and text. Number 2 is I have no preference, so we'll gloss over that. And number 3, stories centered around quizzes or polls. So just to unpack number 1 and 3, which are the kind of the two ones that are really coming to light from this research. This one here is an example of that. Packing the insights into a story seems to be a very effective way of conveying information, and it seems to be a type of content format that users particularly enjoy. It's very easy to consume just with 4 taps, essentially going through 4 different panes of that story, if you will. And also being able to consume information in a really concise way. So it's a fantastic example, this one here, of some real native approach to how to produce content that might be complex in nature, how to distill the key points and present them on an Instagram story. And the one underneath that is actually from HubSpot themselves. So this is a good example of using some of the native story functionality around quizzes and polls. So you can make a really interactive story, and one that really engages the user, encouraging their participation, because that really is the key for any social content, is to encourage some form of audience participation. And we don't consider it enough in general from the content strategies that I see. We try and encourage some form of user action, which is fine, but we should be thinking more about how we include user participation, because the more participation we get on our content, the further and wider our content goes, because the more engagement we get on our content, or interaction. I use that term interchangeably, engagement and interaction. Basically, the more people take some form of action on our content, the more our content is displayed to more people on social, the more we unlock the opportunity of social, because our content's going further and wider. So audience participation is key. And this story example shows a good way of bringing that to life. Also, some further story insights, quite simple, like how many pages of an Instagram story would you tap through before swiping out? Seemingly 4 to 6 is the kind of maximum amount of pages that you'll want to have a story, of which both of these represent their story and tell that story in 4 pages. So let's go into what's new, and let's start with Meta. And there's a few updates around Facebook. Although I must say the center of gravity really at the moment from a social media perspective is all around Instagram. So there's not too much happening from a Meta or Facebook platform perspective. So there's some new group moderation tools that is particularly about false information. And there's lots of things that are happening to groups, which is great if anyone runs a Facebook group, and it really helps you understand, or helps you proactively monitor things that are incoming, making sure that no false information is hitting your group, and that the content that's being shared is truthful. And all of this is happening in the light of the tragedy that's unfolding in Ukraine at the moment. So Facebook are noticing that a lot of fake information is kind of being disseminated across these Facebook groups. So this helps moderation or moderators of Facebook groups manage that more effectively. Groups are also being renamed to communities. When that will happen, I don't know at the moment, but we talk about communities lots, and this is Facebook really just having a bit of a rebranding exercise, because communities really is the stronger word than groups. So you'll notice that starting to be renamed within Facebook over the next few months. Facebook and Instagram Reels stats are coming together. So last month we spoke about the release of Facebook Reels. That's being made available to everyone. So Facebook and Instagram Reels now, not only can you post your reel to both Instagram and Facebook at the same time, which is great to increase distribution of your content, we've now got the ability to review the performance of our content through our Reels insights. Just in Instagram, it will also display our Facebook performance. Just another easy and simple way to review content performance. Reactions are coming to Reels. These will be familiar to everyone, but they're not available yet. But ultimately just showing Facebook's investment in Reels and the increasing likelihood of, increasing propensity to drive people to have some form of engagement or interaction. They're testing Facebook Reel sticker ads as well. So as you can see here, it's quite small on the screen at the moment, but what this enables you to do as a creator of Facebook Reels, those ads can be displayed in a real nice native way that's not completely disruptive to the experience of content and really acts as more of a display ad on Reels. So it's nice to see some slightly different advertising formats coming to the fore, which gives creators more opportunity to monetize their content, and it also gives the opportunity for advertisers to get their content displayed on new areas of the product. Facebook are also working on an Add Yours sticker. So what an Add Yours sticker is, this kind of talks to that point that I was mentioning just a few moments ago about the importance of audience interaction. And Add Yours, which is already available on Reels, gives users the opportunity to encourage those that are watching the content to do their own take of the content. So it's a great way of asking questions of an audience and the audience being able to respond with, their own take on something and their own approach to a certain thing. So that Add Yours sticker can be a really useful tool to drive audience interaction. And what we're seeing as a general rule is, and this has been driven by TikTok, because we're seeing this happen across Facebook and Instagram, we're seeing the kind of benchmarks for engagement start to shift away from likes and comments, where they're still important, but we're starting to see more of a shift towards more audience interaction through things like the Add Yours sticker, things like duets and collaborations and those kind of things that really encourage a bit of a deeper level of audience engagement, some form of deeper interaction. And we've seen this as well with Facebook and Instagram just over the last months, adding the ability to reply to comments with video as well. So it really just creates that much deeper connection rather than just text-based chat and liking a post. So, and that is that depth of audience interaction that both brands and the social platforms want. So moving on to Instagram, lots happening. The chronological feed has returned, kind of, from an Instagram perspective. So a number of years ago, I can't remember where it was now, but Instagram removed the chronological feed. So it used to be a case of it just was a time-based display where the most recent post would appear top of your feed. And a few years ago, Instagram changed that to an algorithmic-based recommended feed, where the system would recognize and try and predict what content that you would like. And that's what you see in your Instagram feed today. However, they're changing this slightly, where they're now bringing in the opportunity to just change your feed to a following and favorites feed. So your following feed just is a chronological feed of those that you're following, pretty simple. And then your favorites feed allows you to follow up to 50 individuals, where you'll just see content from those 50 individuals. So great for cleaning up your own personal Instagram experience. Do I think it's meaningful for everyone's Instagram strategies? Not really, because I don't think many people are going to change this every time, because this is not a setting you change and it changes forever. This is, it will still return to the default every time you open Instagram. You would have to deliberately change it to a different feed. And I just can't see many users doing that. So I think this is kind of Instagram placating the critics of, some of the impact that Instagram has had to, some of the negative effects of social media that we don't need to go into right now. But ultimately, a lot of that's been driven through an algorithmic recommended feed. So this is kind of Instagram placating those critics, but I don't think that this is going to mean significant things for our strategies. Something that will change our strategies. If anyone was in Instagram TV a few months ago, they announced that this was retiring, but they've now completely retired the standalone app and all of the ads that go with Instagram TV. We'll touch on why this is meaningful later on, but fundamentally, Instagram are not moving away from video. It's quite the opposite. They're doubling down on video, but video is going to play much more of a central role for Instagram. And as a reminder for what Instagram's stated objective is to be a video-first entertainment app. So, that sounds very familiar to TikTok, doesn't it? So, and we've already seen a lot more prioritization of video content and particularly short form video content happening in Instagram. So that really is a direction of travel that we all need to be very aware of. Auto captions are here for feed videos. We've spoken about the importance of feed videos because all videos are going to appear in the feed now, not with like long content disappearing off to Instagram TV somewhere. But the important thing here is for accessibility, auto captions are now live. So I can't verify the quality of them because I haven't tried them yet, but it's just brilliant for accessibility and it's available to everyone now. We can now moderate Instagram live streams. This is a big update, actually. I think this is very, very useful. So you can elect to have someone else to moderate the live streams, as demonstrated by today. Running a live stream is pretty tricky, especially when things start to go a little bit wrong. So when you can nominate someone else to moderate that, especially with the comments that are coming in, super, super useful. And you're going to see more and more investment from the social platforms in live streaming. And if you kind of cast your mind back a few months ago to one of our previous roundups, the live streams are responsible for some of the biggest engagement growth on Facebook and Instagram. So live streams tend to be the sources of some of the highest levels of engagement across all of the content that we create. So really meaningful to think about that. Talking about live streams as well, there's a scheduled sticker for Instagram stories that's now come out. So a nice way of promoting your upcoming lives within Instagram stories. This scheduled sticker allows you to display a list of upcoming events and a little bit of a nice kind of fun countdown timer. So it's a great way of people registering for those events and making sure they tune in at the right time and being reminded of those upcoming events. Nothing particularly new here in terms of the concept, but the fact that we can implement it on Instagram stories just gives us another place to promote our upcoming events. Instagram have also rolled out creator tags to everyone. I told you they've been busy. Why creator tags are really important, but it allows you to, foster collaboration with other people when creating your content. So there's no limits to the amount of tags that you can add. And this is a great way of making sure that anyone that's participated in the creation of a certain asset gets tagged and recognized as such. As I've always said, anyone that's heard me waffle on before about social media will know that collaboration is critical and a central point of growing our social media following because it allows us to get in other people's feeds. It adds more value to both our audience and the people we work with. So being able to tag those people and recognize that contribution is super important. Product tags have also come out for everyone. So we've spoken about creator tags. So that's tagging of individuals that we've worked together on producing content with. And then product tags are all about tagging those products that we might be using or representing. Now, of course, for those that are listening to this session from a public sector perspective, this is less important. But the reason it is kind of important at a macro level is that this is pushing more and more people towards social commerce. With the ability for anyone to tag products, this really opens up the creator economy, opens up more monetization opportunities of the platform, which brings more creators to the platform, more people building communities and monetizing that communities by selling products, etc., or being an affiliate of certain products. And more creators coming to the platform create more niche communities. That in turn creates more opportunity for us as brands to work with those individuals and work with those individuals within that community to help raise awareness of our cause, our brand, our organization, or whatever it is that we represent. And that really just talks back to that first point that we made at the start of this presentation. It's all about the influence that's happening through the creators that are building those communities on the platform. Those creators are being encouraged to do so through the monetization opportunities. And because more people are getting more comfortable with buying products, and social commerce is set to be a $90 billion industry, it's on an exponential growth curve at the moment. That's the thing that's changing people's behavior when they're coming to social. And that talks back to the point that I mentioned at the beginning as well, which is that's driving user behavior away from just visiting social just to keep up with what's happening with their friends, to then going to social to discover new products, to be informed about work related activities as well. So yeah, even though this seems kind of micro, at a macro level, these kind of changes are really changing the landscape and the dynamic of social. Instagram are bringing in live reactions. So as we've seen with those kind of reactions on Facebook Reels, so, pretty simple. They're also bringing in a subscription sticker as well. So this is going to help foster more of those creators that I was talking about, creators that are bringing their communities to platforms such as Instagram and trying to monetize those communities. With more of that monetization opportunity, then more of the creators invest time in creating content for that community and growing that community. And that provides us with more opportunities to work with that creator to share our content within that community. Let's see how many times I can say community within 60 seconds. Anyway, an add your sticker is coming to Reels as well. So as I said, it's already available on Instagram stories, but now it's coming to Reels, it's coming to Facebook. It's becoming ubiquitous. So as I said, this is kind of the new normal. I really shouldn't say that, but like, this is the kind of expected thing now when it comes to how we should be encouraging engagement of our content. I'm not saying everyone needs to move away from likes and comments and clicks on links yet, but we're getting to the point of starting to see these new opportunities to drive engagement emerge. And also, as you can see, further to the point around that kind of subscriber sticker that we saw just a couple of slides ago, they're also giving opportunities for subscribers to see specific reels. So once again, Instagram providing more opportunities for creators and their communities to create more tailored experiences for those that potentially are paying for access for that community. And yeah, that's, as I said, that's underpinning a really important shift around monetization of communities. On to Twitter. So audio clips for Spaces. Twitter Spaces continues its growth, and seemingly, I haven't seen any official evidence of this, but just reading some kind of press releases, it looks like Twitter audio Spaces has overtaken Clubhouse in terms of usage. Like I said, I can't validate that. I've only kind of read articles that are alluding to that. But as a result, more and more investment is happening in Twitter audio Spaces. So now we can take a clip of an audio space that we've run and repurpose that clip as social content. So I think that's a really useful and powerful tool because it allows us to create long form content in the context of doing a Twitter audio space and taking 30-second key snippets from that and being able to repurpose that as social content. Really nice way of promoting our longer long form content, and also a great way of kind of repurposing and repackaging the content that we've created. Twitter Spaces is adding analytics as well, which is going to be another crucial step in encouraging our adoption of the platform. Monetization is a key part of Twitter as well as it is a key part of all of the social platforms. I won't go into this in any more detail, but fundamentally, this is the real thing that's driving social media, because all of the platforms are in a war for talent, trying to bring all of the best creators to the platform, trying to incentivize them, encourage them with opportunities for them to make money. With the best creators on the platform, the best content gets created on the platform, the biggest communities get created. And with community creation, that's the thing that really drives engagement, which, as you can see, creators are very much becoming central to all of the social media platforms' growth strategies, because they know the creators bring the content, the creators bring the community. And when the eyes go, where eyes go, money flows, right? So more people coming to a platform, more people engaging, more opportunity to serve ads. And of course, social platforms will take a cut of all of the revenues that creators drive on the platform as well. So you can see it being a very beneficial incentive. Hence the reason you'll see all of the social platforms offering unbelievable incentives for creators and having like $200 million creator funds in the case of TikTok. You can also customize your Twitter view now, which actually I think is a really useful thing. This is just more of a preference if you end up using Twitter. For those that you follow, you can now you can just view things as your latest tweets. So you can just have, rather than a feed full of noise, you can just see the latest tweets from a certain individual you follow. So really useful update. Twitter Shops is coming in a broader shift around monetization. So Twitter have been late to the party when it comes to shops. But here you can see how this is potentially going to play out. Very similar execution to how this is going to look on other social platforms as well. The key difference here is that people can't buy the products while remaining on Twitter. They'll be taken off to a separate shop to buy the product, unlike Twitter shops and unlike Instagram shops and Facebook shops. But ultimately, you can really see the direction of travel across all of these social platforms. Very important update, certainly for this community on the call. They've made some important alt text updates. So as you can see, this little alt tag provides a much clearer opportunity to see or to have a description of what is being displayed on an image. And they've made the accessibility of this much improved and the usability of alt text. So good update there. Twitter communities, which is their alternative to Facebook groups, which will also be called Facebook communities very soon, as we said earlier. So yeah, we're going to get sick of that word community soon. But now it's getting closer where we're starting to see the ability for certain users to be able to create their own communities within the app. This is getting rolled out very slowly. Some people have access to this, some people don't. But also what they're adding, which I think is a very useful thing, is the Twitter community search. So finding those relevant communities on Twitter that might suit our brand or organization. For me, I think this is the bigger immediate opportunity rather than creating our own community, and because we all know how hard it is to build a community from scratch. The best place to start, in my experience, is always with those communities that are existing already, ingratiating ourselves in those, getting a feel for the narrative that's happening, getting the feel for the type of content that's working, etc. And when we feel ready, we potentially can look to build that community. And of course, like I've said earlier, working with those already existing communities and the creators that are running those communities provides us probably more immediate return. Podcasts are also coming to Twitter as well. So podcast growth is significant and it has been on a consistent upward trend for the last 2 years. So Twitter will be bringing podcasts to the platform. Very early days, just in test at the moment. Over to LinkedIn. Quite a lot happening on LinkedIn, actually. So some new post insights. So here in post analytics on LinkedIn, when you look into your insights and look at the content that you've published, it's going to tell you which individuals have engaged with that content. So you can see the type of demographics that your content is appealing to. I wish all of the other social platforms gave us that level of insight, because it really helps us tailor our content really for the ideal end user and our ideal customer persona. Newsletters that we've spoken about a lot, and newsletters have become very popular on LinkedIn. They're now available for company pages, previously reserved just for personal profiles. This gives us an opportunity to create deeper engagement with our audiences, grow a subscriber base, and ultimately, as I've said numerous times, why I like newsletters, it creates a really nice opportunity to get like your kind of true fans, to surface your true fans within your broader company page, where you might have 2,000 followers, for example, but only 100 people say, are those kind of regular people that engage time after time. And newsletters gives you an opportunity to enroll people into those. And when you're producing content, people get notified that you've released a newsletter. So it gives you a much better opportunity for your content being seen. This can be very useful for anyone that's into LinkedIn. I would definitely recommend going to this, which is the new LinkedIn community. So if you just search on LinkedIn Partner Marketing Community, this gives you a whole load of tips and opportunities to grow your LinkedIn following. So this is run by LinkedIn themselves. So it's just a nice way of getting regular tips. So I'll be part of that too. LinkedIn Live sponsoring. So you can now sponsor your upcoming LinkedIn Live to get more views and get more subscribers and registrants, etc. Like I've said already so far, when we were talking about Instagram live streaming is super, super powerful. So, and as I said, live streaming as a content format on Facebook and Instagram has been the format that's driven the majority of engagement when you look at all of the other different post formats. And as you can see, it's the same stats are playing out on LinkedIn as well. 7 times more reactions and 24 times more comments typically happen from a live versus other content. So yeah, it's definitely one to factor into our strategies, live streaming. LinkedIn have update invite to follow, and essentially this means that if you're the admin of a LinkedIn page and you have a whole bunch of first degree connections, you can invite them. The main update they've offered here is that they've now made this possible through mobile as well. So when you're on the road, you can invite up to 100 people per month. I think it is up to 100 people per month. Invite them to follow your page. I'm just going to gloss over that one in the interest of time. And yeah, LinkedIn are also launching a podcasting network. So exactly the same approach as Twitter. And here you can see, you know, I said like the growth of podcasts has been incredible over the last 2 years. So you can see the number behind that, and you can see that there's 162 million. It's only North American data, unfortunately, but 162 million people have listened to podcasts, and 116 million in the last month. So you can see podcasts increasing in popularity. Unsurprisingly, all of the social platforms are providing ways to present podcasts as well. So podcasts becoming an ever more ubiquitous content form, and it's becoming less and less niche. And all of the social platforms now, because Facebook made a move for podcasts as well a few months back, all the social media platforms are giving us opportunities to promote our podcast too. Moving on to the final few updates. TikTok, this is a big one. 10-minute videos are coming to TikTok, where Instagram are going more and more short form, like moving away from Instagram TV. TikTok is taking the complete opposite approach, where they are going more and more long form. Like we said, when we're looking at TikTok versus YouTube, TikTok are more and more often like going after YouTube, which is very interesting because YouTube have 2.5 billion monthly active users. TikTok are on about 1.5, somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 billion active users, so about half the size of YouTube. So you can see very much where TikTok's eyes are on their growth. So interesting one. And also 10-minute videos give us more opportunity as well to describe our content, and it kind of lowers the creative bar, I would say, because longer content is easier to do than shorter content, right? So this gives us an opportunity to potentially have an opportunity to get involved in TikTok and lower the creative barriers like we were talking about earlier, because it's going to be more befitting of more kind of educational content that takes a bit longer to explain, that's a bit more in depth. So that could be quite useful. Polls are also coming to TikTok. I mean, I don't need to explain anything about polls, but once again, encouraging that level of audience interaction, absolutely key. Stories are coming to TikTok as well. Don't know when they're launching. They've been testing them for a while, but they're going to be here very soon. And once again, if we're familiar with Instagram stories, this gives us an opportunity and a jumping off point into TikTok. Once again, lowering the creative bar, where we suddenly don't need to think, all right, how do I dance to a popular song, for the next 45 seconds, right? Because not all of us are into that. But stories gives us an opportunity potentially of, cross-pollinating our content that we might be pretty comfortable on Instagram, gives us an opportunity to cross-pollinate that onto TikTok once it's available for everyone. It's only for certain people. And it seems to be popping up on random kind of UK and US accounts. So yeah, more to come on that. And TikTok have also enabled a desktop scheduling. So if you want to schedule your content to TikTok, you can actually do that from the desktop now as well. So it means that you don't have to post it in a moment. You can schedule that ahead of time. There's also an ability to count the number of saves as well. So very familiar or similar with Instagram, where you have an opportunity for users to save content. TikTok's now reporting the number of saves across your content. So another way of you judging audience interaction. I'm just going to gloss over that one because it's not as relevant right now. And yeah, Pinterest have gone big into social commerce. So lots more e-commerce functionality coming to Pinterest. YouTube, they're going big on YouTube Shorts, which is their TikTok analytics, their TikTok competitor. So Shorts analytics is going to be a really nice way of you understanding the impact that your Shorts content is having. Shorts in the short time that they've been available have generated more than 5 trillion views. I don't even know how many zeros are involved in that, but it's a lot. So YouTube Shorts provides a really interesting opportunity for all of us as brands, because as I said, YouTube has the most broad demographical mix from younger to older, and Shorts is an area they're promoting heavily within the product. And now we've got some form of analytics, albeit quite light. We've got some form of analytics which will help us understand our performance. Once again, live streaming makes an appearance. We can now invite guests into our live stream. You can do the same on Instagram. They released that on Instagram, like 4-person lives just last month. YouTube are doing the same, but just with 2 people now. Another way that we can collaborate together, run a live together. I mean, just in exactly the same way that Joanna are doing this right now. And then Reddit, which is the final one we'll cover off today. No, I think we've got one more after this. Reddit is one that doesn't get as much love as it should do, especially in the UK. And when you want to find out what an audience is saying, Reddit is a really good place to go. And what they've done here, which I think is a really meaningful update, this community discovery tool allows us to find, as the name suggests, find those communities, because there's communities about everything on Reddit. And I often find like the conversation is of some, I would say, the highest quality on Reddit, most thoughtful type of conversation I've seen typically on Reddit. There's also a lot of exceptions to that too. But certainly in the kind of social media communities that I hang out in, Reddit's really, really smart. And whilst it's not really a content distribution platform as we might consider the other social platforms are, this is a fantastic way of asking questions of a community, gaining consensus on something, and really forming some form of basically ingratiating yourself in the community. That is the key thing for Reddit, rather than distributing your content, because sometimes we think social media is all about like push and distributing our content. Social media is also about listening intently to an audience, helping an audience feel seen, heard, respected, understood. And Reddit gives us an opportunity to really hone in what our potential users, our customers or potential customers are talking about. And now finally, Clubhouse. Very simple. They've added some in-room chat to Clubhouse. If anyone's still using Clubhouse, I'm not too sure. They're very much all the media hype has dwindled about it, so I don't cover it too much, to be honest. And with that, 40 minutes in, I did say it was going to be half an hour, but it's 40 minutes, but apologies. So the takeaways from that, the trends and the themes that we've seen. So as we've seen, we've seen very much social media usage is fueling more purchase intent, right? The way that people are using social media platforms continues to change, continues to evolve. And really, that is a golden opportunity for us as organizations to capitalize on not only the growing usage of social, because it's growing 10% year on year in terms of active users, it's growing in terms of the amount of time that people are spending on social, but it's also changing in the way that people are utilizing the platform. They're not spending all that time, networking with friends. They're spending that time discovering new things. And that is a huge opportunity that's in front of all of us. TikTok engagement growth continues. As we've seen, it's 5-6 times higher, the engagement on TikTok versus Instagram. But the challenge that's facing TikTok is all about creator monetization, because typically creators make the most money on other platforms. They make the least on TikTok. So that potentially will put some form of ceiling on TikTok's growth if they don't solve it, because the way that creators get paid and recognized for their contribution and the content that they create very much drives what platform they create the content on. And where the platform goes and where the creators go is where the community goes. So that's really important for us to kind of have some broader cognizance of the platforms that are underpinning the creator economy more, because it's those platforms where the communities will flock to, and where we can start to think about those community leaders, those people that run those groups, those creators that we can partner with as organizations to get our message out there. LinkedIn, I think personally, from a real simplistic perspective, LinkedIn are leading with tools that can directly grow our business, like the inviting to follow, the newsletters option, the ability to see who's interacted specifically on our content. It's a big shout out to LinkedIn, because from certainly a small business perspective, they're doing a lot to really directly and tangibly help us grow, certainly organically. Twitter, very much championing social audio, and Twitter communities is definitely one to keep an eye on. I wouldn't recommend anyone jumping in with 2 feet right now, but certainly potentially looking at some of those Twitter communities that are being created already. Certainly if you already have some form of Twitter presence, would be a good thing to look at. Social commerce continues to evolve. I've spoken lots about monetization and social commerce. I can probably leave that there. Live streaming, definitely, that's one I would leave you with something to go and think about. You can see the direction of travel across all the platforms. More opportunities around live streaming, like the sticker that's appeared on Instagram, the ability to view upcoming scheduled events that are upcoming. What we've seen with multi-party lives on Instagram, on YouTube. We're seeing LinkedIn do sponsored lives as well. So yeah, when we see some direction of travel that's kind of linked across the social networks, that's a really good hint for us as organizations to think, all right, we should probably pay attention to that as part of our strategy, because when they're all pulling in the same direction, that gives us an opportunity to know that all of the platforms are pushing that as a content format. It also gives us an opportunity to think, right, it's a great way of repurposing our content and pushing our content across multiple different channels, if multiple channels are supporting live streaming, as an example. And finally, engagement drives the social platforms, and new tools are emerging to encourage audience participation. As I said, there's very much a paradigm shift when it comes to the type of interaction that's happening on content. We just need to spend 10 minutes on TikTok for us to realize what's happening. And very much Facebook and Instagram are aware of that through this whole add yours sticker, replying to comments through video, that form of deeper audience interaction and engagement. And especially as we've seen, going right back to the start, looking at Instagram story performance and looking at the type of content that the audience love, which, the third one was the ones that encourage some form of participation, like quizzes, polls, etc. So they are your trends and the themes. With that, let's leave that there. Oh, I've got a new website if you want to kind of follow me for regular updates, of which you can follow on andyrlambert.com, of which I do a weekly update of all of the things that are happening on a weekly basis, just to save you having to listen to 45 minutes of me waffling on and struggling to use a computer at the start of a live stream. Anyway, with that, Joanne, back to you in the studio.
Andy, thank you so much. And honestly, he doesn't even breathe during these presentations, which is fantastic, because that means we get more value. But in all seriousness, there definitely is a 2022 trend. And it's really good when you put all of the developments side by side from all the social networks. Like, they're all watching each other, because we've got all the C's today. It's about content format. So you spoke about the engagement being more than a like and a comment. It's more that replication of content, the duetting, the stitching, the clipping. So live streaming also in terms of content format, that mobile video. So that's the first C. The second C then is creators. Creators are being called out, and you can be a creator in the public sector as well, right? You don't have to want to commercialize it, but you need to be a thought leader. And then community, building up communities and calling out communities, whether it's Facebook, renaming groups to communities, Twitter, creating communities, and also then leading to commerce. So commerce is the end goal. It's, as you say, where the attention goes, the money flows. Now, Laura has stayed to the end, and she has a question. So, I mean, who didn't see the Oscars this week? My goodness me, it's trending everywhere. But as Laura says, it also brings up, a really sensitive health issue of alopecia. And she's saying, how can I make the most of this media moment and this attention? And I think in a very thoughtful and considered way, but especially on LinkedIn. And she says her goal is to position herself as a thought leader. So the first thing I would say is have a look at what hashtags are now emerging and developing around this topic. We can search hashtags and topics within LinkedIn search. And I think if you're the subject matter expert, then you've got to be very thoughtful in how you approach it, because we know newsjacking is a great social media tactic, but done wrong, it can have the opposite effect. So you might want to say, well, what is alopecia and what is it not? You know what I mean? And then you might have some people in your community who'd be willing to share their story. Yeah. And then if it's on LinkedIn, you're going to be talking to employers there also. So, okay, and you're talking about from your own experience. Okay, so you're willing to take your personal experience into it. Well, that's even better, because that's where the most authentic story will come from. And what I always say to people when it comes to that type of content, you got to know where your own boundaries are in terms of sharing your stories. You got to be comfortable with it. But nothing ignites an audience more with that emotional-led content that is from a personal story. Andy, do you have anything to add to that? We've got, this is a major topic this week.
Yeah. I really like everything you said, and I think the only thing I could add to that is you would have a really interesting take on what's not being spoken about so far in the media, right? Because everyone's fixating on is it good or bad? What was the meaning behind the slap? All that stuff. And another Canva-led meme. So we can step away from that. You can say, why did Will Smith react in that way? What's the kind of emotional drivers behind that? What's it like living with alopecia, for example? Because clearly there was a lot of emotion in what was going through his mind, and there's a lot of inherent pain there. So being able to tell that with a position of learned authority that you have, I think it would be a really meaningful take on it.
Yeah. And you know what? Newsjacking is a great way to step into a media moment and to try and own it, but you gotta definitely do it in a careful way. Well, Andy, we've come to the top of the hour, and I want to thank you as always for those updates. So many opportunities for us as marketers, and in government and public sector, you've got to be leaning into the authority content and admitting that you are a creator, because after all, you are the people that own the knowledge, and you got to share it in the public interest. Andy, as always, thanks a million. Have a great month, and I'll see you in about 30 days. Same time, same place, and don't forget to update your Apple settings.
Absolutely. Lesson learned.
Have a great day, everybody, and thanks so much. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.